Hi there, I'm Landon Burke, and my technology that I chose is educational games. So it's a pretty broad term, but let's get at it. So the first thing you might be thinking is, why do students need games? And that's a valid question, but why not? They blend learning with hands-on activities, so the student's able to see uh, things that they're learning in school and how it can apply to real life things or certain games, because it's going to be using that as the objective, and that's how you're going to win the game or get the high score. And many students are already passionate about games. Oftentimes, that's what they're doing when they go home. That's how they're spending their free time when they probably should be working on homework. But um, so why don't we just foster that passion for games into something that can actually help them in life and help them learn? And games can be used for any age. They're pretty flexible, so you can have a simple game for elementary students, and then get more of a complicated game, well suited for high schoolers. So in elementary use, so this age group I believe would benefit most from educational games, since most games are based around educational fundamentals like math and reading and writing. So there's a ton of games that are just going over that over and over, but it's in a way that is different from just the teacher telling them the same thing over and over. They're able to play these different games and still learn the same thing. The games show a goal that the student's trying to achieve, so it's just easier for them to see the why, to see use what they're learning and why they're learning it. So the games that I got here are from ABC. Yeah. So the first one is just a submarine little game, and you're just trying to spell whatever the word that the duck is saying. So the computer will actually say the word, and then you can hover over each letter, and it tells you what sound the letter makes. So rather than just having your teacher do it in class, you're able to do it kind of on your own in a more fun way. And the next one is for if you look at the math, it's kind of more it's harder, more complicated. It's a fraction proportion, and it's actually a competitive game where you're playing against other students. So it just adds a little bit of fun and excitement to learning math. Next is middle school. So just as a student grows in competence and complexity, so should the games that they're playing. So instead of just saying on the spelling and math, middle schoolers should be experiencing games that combine these different elements, and a lot of times without them even realizing it. Like I know for a fact, Pop Tropica, that was a big game when I was in around middle school and elementary. It's just a social game where you're trying to do these different quests and you have to go to different islands and solve different puzzles. So you're using those skills that you're actually learning in school, but not necessarily how you would in school. Not for like a worksheet, but you're doing uh, just different quests that would require the same attention that a homework assignment would. And then I know coding's getting pretty big in our culture. Programmers are more needed. So then that's what code.org does. They use games to show how coding works. And then it also is exciting for kids to do it because they can recognize different aspects of gaming. And then for high schoolers, so far the games have been kind of focused on certain subjects, but high schoolers have already been through elementary and middle school, so they need to be learning about like adult life and different skills that they need for that, including decision making, seeing the results of consequences of actions, problem solving, and etc. And I believe that these can be learned through board games. So a little bit different technology, older if you would, but just games like Settlers of Catan. I know there's a lot of bartering that you have to do, so you have to be able to compromise in certain areas to trade with people to get the resources that you need. In the next game, the big sheet in the middle. It's your four of you are manning a submarine. So your goal is to sink the other submarine, but you have to have constant communication between you. So it really works on teamwork because one person's driving the sub, the other person's trying to find where the other sub is. There's weapons, and so yeah, it just really builds that communication. And then even simple things like cards, different card games, just use that different part of the brain where you have to see, uh, okay, if I do this, then what are the consequences? Like risk reward. So then it actually transfers into real life decision making when you're faced with those decisions in high school and in college. So then the goals of using games are just another vessel for education.